Perfect. All right. 2 seconds here. Okay, perfect. Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another episode, this one live, of Ask the Language Nerd, coming to you from following place in India. Well, kind of tough to see, but it's the place. This is the show where I take your guys' questions and answer them. If you guys ever want to spit something, feel free to do so. You can reach me on a whole bunch of different social media networks, Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all those other places. All links in the description below. I haven't decided on this yet, but probably as of right now, it looks like I'll be doing more live stuff from India and less recorded and edited and uploaded. Quite honestly, just because I haven't quite found a good rhythm yet for making videos and when that happens, etc. So the easiest way for me as of right now anyways is to, whenever I have a chance, pop on the camera and yeah, make a video live from somewhere in this kind of area where the Wi-Fi is actually strong. So anyway, let's jump right in here. First question, pull it up. All right, first question here. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions you want to ask, type them in the live chat. Let me open the chat up right now. All right, chat is open. Feel free to type it in. First question is, Azren, I am learning French. Do you know any books or apps or anything that I should download to learn the language? This is a good question to answer. I think that when it comes to apps and resources for language, for most languages, let's say most major languages, just Google it. There's usually lots and lots and lots of resources, like Duolingo, and there's like a variety depending on language, right? Just Google it, research it, look into it. I promise you, you will find different resources. And the reality is that I just recommend that you just go and test out a whole bunch of them and just do your research. You know, as you play with different apps and resources, you'll find some that you like. I think that's kind of the global answer. For French specifically, I mean, Duolingo is a good place to go. italki, there's lots of language partners you can find. HelloTalk, you can find language partners. You can do, I'm trying to other specific books that I know. I don't know any specific books, but you know, those are a couple different resources. But general answer for languages, for when it comes to apps or books, things like that, just Google it. Do your research, test out 3, 4, 5, 6, and you'll find one that works for you at least. So that's that one. This is going to be more lightning round today, guys, just so you know. All right, number 2. All right, next question. Is translating in your head a bad thing when learning a language? In my perspective, and mine's not a popular one, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's bad to be translating from your first language into the second language when you're learning a language. Nothing wrong with it. I think it's actually a natural part of the process. Early on, it can sometimes be very challenging to think directly in the foreign language because you're just not very good at it. So I'm not against translating. This person asked me if I will teach using translation, and yeah, sometimes I will. Like if you speak English, I'm teaching you Spanish, I might write, perro equals dog. I might write that. I don't see any issue with that at all. I guess the devil's advocate we can play is there are different teaching strategies where you don't use translation, where you do teach in a way where maybe you don't give the English word or the whatever word for the target language word, if that makes sense. There are strategies around that. Personally, I'm not someone who thinks you have to teach that way or that way is better. At the end of the day, as a teacher, the best way is the way that you can, the best way is, first of all, you have to have a good methodology. There has to be a good strategy, no question. But second of all, the best way is the way that you can deliver on best. So if there's a 10th best way that you can nail, that you're going to do well, it's way better than the number 1 best way that you don't have any familiarity with. Does that make sense? So I think that's something to keep in mind. As well. All right. Oh, last thing as I look for the next question here, as I scroll through. Last thing is, obviously as a teacher, you should be trying to look for better ways. You can't just settle for the 10th best way or anything like that. You do have to keep looking, etc., etc. But still, something to think about. It's not about the best way, so what can you execute on the best? All right, next question. This is weird doing a live. It's a weird dynamic doing this live. It's like very different, especially because I'm like, I'm someone who really gets in my routine sometimes. Actually, never mind. Not true. Okay. Here we go. Hey, just looking for some ways to improve my English, especially when it comes to vocabulary. I can't afford to travel to any English-speaking country. What do you recommend? I think reading is a really good way. Reading is a fantastic way to improve vocabulary. Yeah, reading's good. I think writing is also really, really good, like especially if you combine writing with reading. So if you read something, start tracking the new words and write those new words down, and then review those new words. If you're following me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll probably have noticed that I've been actually writing little stories using new words that I want to review. Really good way to do that. By the way, go to my Instagram, you'll see a story in Gujarati about a hunter, who's a very strong hunter, sorry, because I learned the word for strong, Gujarati. A strong hunter whose turtle gets stolen by a very bad man. I wrote a little story and it made me practice a bunch of new words that I learned. So I think that's a good way to learn new vocabulary and really get it in your brain. If you are more of an auditory or spoken learner, I think you can also do similar things with language exchanges. So find someone to practice speaking a language with, whether it's like on italki.com or the application called Hello Talk in your city, whatever. Find someone to actually practice with and make a specific note, like actually write down all the new words and make a note to actually be practicing them in the conversation with the language partner. So, cool. Next question. Scroll through here. Next one here. Okay, so-and-so's learning French. Seems like, actually wait. They've written it in French, so okay. So this person speaks French, but when it comes to doing public speaking in French, they get very nervous, and they're like, what advice do you have? So my advice for public speaking in French, first of all, I would question how comfortable you feel doing public speaking in English or whatever your first language is. I'm not sure what your first language is, but because if you struggle with public speaking in your first language, well, the nervousness you feel when you're giving a public speech in French probably has very little to do with the language, and probably has to do more with the fact that you're not good at public speaking, or that public speaking makes you nervous. So it might not even be a language issue, but just something to think about initially. Now, if in your first language you are actually good at public speaking, it's not something that makes you feel nervous, and you're specifically nervous in French here, well, then we're in different territory. Then I think you got to improve on it the same way that you would improve on giving public speeches, where you need to actually practice them. You need to maybe go to a Toastmasters. Like, listen, I think this is not actually a language question. I think this is more of a speaking issue, like a public speaking challenge, because you're just feeling nervous about public speaking, and because it's in a language you're not familiar with. Does that make sense? So I think it's, I'm kind of rambling on, so I'm trying to find the right answer. I think it's two parts to it. Part one is you probably need to become very comfortable in the language itself, know your grammar, can you speak, can you understand, become comfortable in the language itself. And part two is that if becoming comfortable doesn't make you comfortable to do public speaking, then you need to start taking some steps to improve your speaking abilities, whether it's taking a course, watching YouTube videos, whatever it is, to learn what you can do differently to become a stronger speaker. So I hope that answers that question. I think it does, but I kind of have to ramble on a bit to get to the answer. All right, next question. I'm trying to clear every question that's submitted right now that I've got on my list. So let's see if it's possible. Oh, this one we kind of addressed, but we'll do it anyway. We've semi-addressed it. So this person's asking about me teaching Spanish. When they're saying, when you teach Spanish, do you explain things in English or do you explain things in Spanish? And do you translate things directly? So I talked about this before. I will translate often, maybe not always, depending on a variety of factors. But yeah, I think I do translate. I don't see an issue with it. And I'll explain things I'll explain things in Spanish if their Spanish is at high enough level for me to explain it to them in Spanish. But if it's not, I'll explain in English. Now, often my students, actually, it's not even true. Even for higher level, I will sometimes explain things in English, but not always. I think it depends. I think it's kind of a little bit of both. I think whatever is going to be more effective. If I feel like it'll be more effective to explain it in English, I'll explain it in English. I think it'll be more effective to explain in Spanish, I'll explain in Spanish. Whatever is going to be the most beneficial for the student is usually, usually what I do. All right, next one. All right. What's the difference between a Canadian and American accent from a pronunciation point of view? Not much. Canadian, American, they're very close. We have a couple of notable differences. So in Canada, we do what's called Canadian raising. So we have, I forget exactly how it works, but words like with an ow sound, like out or house, things like that, we will say house, out, things like that. So it's ever so slightly different. Really, you'd only hear the difference if you were Canadian or American and you're speaking to someone, then you might hear a little bit, but it's not anything major. The one thing I will say is within Canada and the States, we have slightly different accents anyway, especially in the States. Like if you go to Louisiana has a very different accent. That's not the quote unquote standard or the quote unquote neutral American accent, right? And Canada's the same thing. If you go to different parts, like you have slightly different accents. General rule of thumb, and this will make sense to Americans. Anyone who's not American, this will be a little bit more challenging to understand, but the further east you go, Spanish song on the radio, interesting. The further east you go in Canada, the more, I guess, the less American the accent becomes and the more pronounced the accent becomes. And that's kind of the general rule. But again, generally speaking, it's quite similar. All right, next one here. Let's maybe do one more, because it's already been going for 12 minutes. One or two more. All right, got a message from a teacher saying they recently started teaching over Skype and they don't, looks like it's something they're relatively new at. Do you have any specific tips or advice? Yeah, I think on Skype, a lot of the same things as in person. So just because it's on, I think the big thing on Skype is it's trying to figure out how can you take a lot of things you have in person and bring them online. For example, on Skype, it can be very challenging to have a visual. Some people go, oh, how do I show you? How do I write for you on Skype? How do I write something and show you, right? Well, you can use Google Docs. Use Google Docs, you share the Google Doc with your student, and ta-da, there you go. You can go see what's being written. I think another challenge as well is how do I explain this? How do you keep them engaged because you do have that screen in front of you? You're not actually physically sitting next to each other. Well, I think it's just asking more questions and making sure that you're teaching in a way that interests the student. Teaching on Skype does have some limitations. Things like it's harder to play like a game or something like that. It's harder to do hands-on activities, but definitely not impossible. Like you can do, there's actually websites, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but if you Google it, you'll find it. If you be like things like play checkers or play blah, blah, blah game through multiple computers, search that, play X game through multiple computers, you will find different websites where you can actually send your student a link and both of you can play the same game online, even though you're not actually in the same room. So I think that's something to work on as well. Anything else on Skype? Nothing crazy. Thank you. Yeah, nothing. Nothing crazy. I think that kind of wraps it up on Skype. Okay, let's wrap that up. Delete that one. Let's do anything else here. Actually, let's not do that one. Next one here is how long does it take you to reach a fairly comfortable level of language, and what resources do I normally use? Normally, this will be the last one we do. Normally, it takes me, you know, call it four years, 3 to 5, call it 4 years, something like that, of doing relatively consistent part-time studying. So call it 15 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, 4 years of that. In terms of resources, usually I mix a few teachers / private tutors, traveling abroad, traveling abroad or doing whatever I can to surround myself with native speakers. So whether it's online or in person, whatever's more practical at the time. And then I'd say I'm always listening to music. I love music in different languages. I do writing. I'll do writing practice. I'll write little stories to practice new words. I'll read different things online, read things. Anything else I do specifically? I guess one thing for me is I'm always trying to find ways to apply my language skills. I always want to apply them to something. That's always something I do as well. Yeah, wrap it up there. So I didn't get through all the questions. There's a lot that I didn't get to, but it's already been going for 16 minutes. So we'll wrap it up there, and my food is here. So awesome. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. This is, I don't know. I'm not sure how I felt about this live version. I feel like I can, when I edit it together and I do it pre-recorded, I can actually package it together more cleanly and give cleaner answers and edit out the stuff that was rambling. I don't know. Let me know what you guys thought about this like live version. Not sure if it's good or not. Yeah, I guess slight little apology I'll give is I'm like a little bit lower energy right now, just because a couple of reasons. I mean, for some reason, this is super weird for me. It's like very new for me. I'm feeling ever so slightly self-conscious about recording here. No idea why. It's like that's super rare for me. I think it's because normally when I shoot things in public, it's not like a sit-down 20-minute talk in public that I record, so I just don't think of it. But now that I'm here doing this for like 20 minutes, it's like it is way more, I don't know, something about it makes me self-conscious. So I only realized like partway through as I'm recording, so it's always interesting. But yeah, anyway, wrap it up there. See ya.